believe we are.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And
So,
thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
no, absolutely, absolutely, and we want everybody. I mean, my thing is we want everybody to be able to be as informed as possible,
Most certainly.
because my thing is with us. These elections that are coming up are very important. You know,
Yeah.
they're just crucial and vital. So, if I can do my part to give people the opportunity to be able to talk about their visions, their platforms, and all of those things, and I certainly want to do it because
Most certainly.
I love my city, and I love my city, and I want our city to do better, be better on all of those things. So I'm
Yeah.
all for it. I'm
And it's
definitely all for
unnecessary that there's such a culture, especially around political time. There is a culture that makes people afraid to
it.
venture out, or, you try to be as neutral as possible for the fear of, I'm going to just call it out, retaliation, right? I've
Right.
heard business owners even say, and other community leaders say, well, I'm supporting you, I'm voting for you, but I'm afraid that if I come public, I may be retaliated against. And so there's a stigma that we have to work against. And it also is for people like yourself who says this platform is for anyone and
Right.
everyone. And
Yeah.
so utilize the platform so that the voters can be most informed.
And for
That's
absolutely.
how we should be operating with, integrity and with equity. And we should you have people who are fearful to have Tori Rose on because of other candidates may feel slighted. Well, no, here's a platform. Leroy is saying everybody is welcome to access the platform.
Right.
Too frequently, people don't access the platforms and then they get angry,
Right.
if they feel like they've missed an opportunity. And so
Right.
I'm grateful to see that those of us that really have a focus on community, that we are keeping the main things.
Exactly, exactly, and that's what we're here to do. So I want to welcome everybody because we're on Facebook. So I want to welcome everybody to brand new development series. It's your boy Leroy McKenzie Jr. coming to you, and I'm gonna introduce this young lady that's sitting right here across the screen from me. I can't say sitting across from me, sitting across the screen from me in a minute. But I want to welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody coming in. Y'all know we usually here the third Mondays of each month. But like I told y'all yesterday when I did the brand new with the fitness, one of my fitness entrepreneurs that came on to talk about health and fitness. Um, Sometimes you have to go outside of the schedule, which is what I do, because you have people who are bringing you such great information, such great knowledge, and the things that their messaging and their missions need to be put out there right away. So that's what I'm here to do today. Those of us that, or those people that may not be familiar, if you don't know, Tuesday, July 2nd is the deadline for voting here in the city of Baltimore, and I believe
June 2nd.
the whole state of Maryland. It's the whole state of Maryland. I
Yes,
believe.
June 2nd,
Yeah,
not July 2nd. We don't want people
exactly.
to think they have an extra month. June
Right.
2nd, not July 2nd.
So your ballots must be postmarked. I'm saying that right now. Your ballots must be postmarked June the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be after. It needs to. So y'all need to be filling them out between. If you haven't already done it, then you need to be filling it out today, between today and Monday. I promise you, you need to be doing it between now and Monday. That way you don't have to worry about it getting out, trying to run to the post office on Tuesday, worrying about if it's going to be postmarked. So you take care of it. It won't take you long. You just sit down for a couple of minutes, fill it out, and drop it to the post office. You ain't even got to pay for the stamp. So no excuses for it. So so we're gonna get to it because I'm here to have a conversation with a young lady that is, and she's gonna tell y'all about herself in a minute, but that is here in Baltimore City. And as those of you that know, or hopefully you do know, that the city council position districts are actually on the ballot for Baltimore City. So she is one of the candidates, and we let all of the candidates know that this platform is for anyone that wants to be able to come and take the opportunity between now and Tuesday to be able to talk about your platform, your vision, your movement that you're having for people to be able to know who you are and what you stand for and what you're going to do for the city of Baltimore, because that's what all of this is about. So I want to introduce to some and to tell others about Miss Tori Rose, and I'm gonna let her tell y'all about tell y'all about who she is, and give you just a little bit of information about her, and then we're gonna get into a conversation about Baltimore and about District 7 and about how her vision for it and how she is looking to have the opportunity to be able to make it better. So, Miss Tori Rose.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was like, oh,
Oh,
he said July by accident. And I know we've had so much going on with our
oh, right,
election. I didn't want anybody to say they changed it again. And
right,
so for anybody who has been following what's going on, this has been a very unique situation with our Congressman Elijah Cummings passing away. We had an election on April 28th. That
yes,
was first, it was going to be the election that our city council race was a part of. And
okay,
so our race has been uh, transitioned now to June 2nd. But to your point, get your ballots in. Let's not wait to the last minute. Let's not assume that we have time. We don't know. Anything could happen. You could personally run into some challenges. You want to get your ballots in as soon as possible. Before I introduce myself, I'm going to give two reminders. No, you don't need postage, because if you have a ballot with the envelope that it came
right,
in, there's already postage. It's already been paid. However, listen, you don't even have to get out of your house and get in your car to go to the mailbox. You can return it to your mail carrier. And
mm.
so people who are coming to give you your mail, you can do an even exchange the same time, man. And they give it right on back
Absolutely,
to your mail carrier. And so that is something that I wanted to stress, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, I gotta get to a mailbox. Or what
right,
if this mailbox is tampered with? Also, we have drop-off boxes across the district. We have one at Douglas. We have one at West South Skills Center, which is a little north of the district. And we have one in Hampton. And so now that I've gone through all of my PSAs, I'm Tori Rose, City Council candidate for District 7 right here in West Baltimore. And most people say, well, what is District 7? It's a great question.
yes,
District 7 is from North and Hilton all the way down North Avenue to about Linden and Park. We go up as far as Ashburton and Hilton, Hanlon area, BCCC, that's that Liberty Heights and Wabash corridor. We come back around to Mondawmin and Reservoir Hill. We go around 83 to Hampton. And we come back down again, like I said, past Mondawmin, the Sandtown, Winchester area, Gilmore Homes, Northern Pennsylvania, Rosemont. It's a huge district. So if you are in 21217, 21216, 21215, or 21211, I want you to look at your ballot, look at the District 7 box, and you will see my name, Tori Rose, Torirose. I'm the second on the ballot, but I'm the first choice. And why do I say that so confidently? I say that because I was born and raised here in West Baltimore. I'm a community leader. I'm an advocate. I'm an educator. I'm a mom. I'm someone who has already been doing the work. And so when it comes down to aggressive overhauls of our community and seeing results, we need someone who has been boots on the ground, who already has created and maintained positive working relationships with developmental agencies, governmental agencies, the schools, and alike. And so that's who I am. I worked over a decade in the federal government. I always jokingly say I did 12 hard years in the feds. And so I had that high level understanding of federal regulations and policy. I was on a number of different initiatives that touched Americans with disabilities, veterans, and those who are suffering with end-stage renal disorder. And so working on a federal level, being in charge of initiatives and policy reformation that were $1 million budget items, looking at how a lot of times what we do in the federal government didn't trickle down to local level government. And so everyday people like you and I wouldn't get the benefit of the hard work that was being done at the federal government level, especially if they didn't have a relationship. The government agency didn't have a relationship with the municipality leadership.
mm-hmm.
And so taking on this hat, taking on this role and moving into this space, it allows me to not only tap into my experience in policy revision, policy analyzation, policy writing, but it also helps me bring together my experience as a community leader, an advocate, and a solutions focused individual. So I'm not a person who's just going to talk about it. I'm the person who's going to do it and who's going to walk that thing all the way out to the end. Then I'm going to come back and say, did it work? I don't frequently see measurements in our government. I don't see, people who are able to analyze and say, did this really work? And where did we fall short? And how can we make this more robust? Instead, what I see is people who continue to come in, scrap everything that's been done before them, and continue to hit the reset button. And when that happens, our city loses a lot of money. Families lose their homes. Children are not being advocated for. People are dying in the street because we just keep hitting the reset button, hitting the reset button. That's not smart.
I think your mic might have gone out, Tori.
No, I just paused.
Oh, okay. All right. And I think that that's great. And I like that you talked about your um the background that you have. And I want you to talk a little bit, not just the time that you had with working in the federal government, but then also the business perspective that you come from as well. And can you talk about that? Talk about the entrepreneurship, kind of aspect of it too, and what you think, um, how what interested you in getting into the lane that you're in now, because you've gone from working for the government to being to have also being an entrepreneur, but then now saying, wow, I kind of want to jump into this political lane too. Was there a mindset that you had? Is politics something that you had already always been interested in?
I've always been interested in advocating for what was fair and what is right. And so, even as a little girl, standing up in my community, being a big cousin, being a protector, never being afraid to fight against the status quo, what made sense, what didn't make sense. So, that's always been my spirit. I've always been the person who, regardless of what everybody else is doing, you're not going to pay me to go along with you. I'm my own individual thinker, my own individual person. And so, yes, that has always been my spirit. I do have a degree in history and government political science. So I
Oh,
always
okay.
had the desire to understand, just how our policies were made and who were benefiting from them and where the loopholes were. While I was at Bowie, I was recommended for a dual program. And so I could have gone to law school. My professor at the time had a relationship with UB, not want to be one of those people who just got a law degree and didn't use it. There are a lot of people who are focusing on the accolades and not focusing on the results. And so, what I wanted to make sure that whatever world I went in, I found myself being an asset to that world and not walking in it with just the self righteous kind of nature of, oh, look at me, I'm Dr. such and such, or I'm JD such and such. And so I decided not to get a law degree, and I'm not knocking anyone who has one, but that was just not my personal choice. Again, like I said, I decided to go into working for the federal government, where I could literally understand how so many families were being disenfranchised, how the policies were being made against certain groups of people, even when it came to mental health and affective mood disorders. I worked on a congressional policy review board that worked with our agency and identified what diagnostic codes and what medical codes alienated certain. And just so you understand, even at the federal government level, it's often against women and it's often against Black and Brown people. And so people in higher levels of poverty and communities where they're not getting the access or have the access to certain resources, those people also find themselves not being covered under certain federal mandates, laws, and policies. And so when you talk about entrepreneurship, 3-4 years ago, I had an opportunity to speak in Annapolis, and they asked me to come from my lens of a young Black woman who was just starting her business. And it's, most of us have done some kind of business venture in the past, right? But understanding that entrepreneurship is the fiber, small businesses are the fiber of our economic system. And we're not taught that. We're often taught to go to school, to get degrees and to work for someone else, to invest in your TSP, to play nice and to retire in 30 to 35 years and hope that you have a little bit of life left.
Right.
Being from West Baltimore, being from this community, my grandfather was an Arabber. And so he would go up and down North Avenue and up and down Pennsylvania Avenue with his horse and carts. I'm talking years and years ago. And so I come from a family that's interwoven in this community who understood hard work. My cousin posted an article the other day about one of our older cousins who was a prisoner of war. And so, and this article was from like the 90s, and it had one of my aunts who has now passed away, and she's talking about her experiences as a young girl with this pride that we right here in West Baltimore sent our family members to fight for this country. And so entrepreneurship, it is important for all of us to venture into something bigger than ourselves. It's important for us to find something that we love to do and to figure out a way to monetize it. And it doesn't mean you're going to become rich from it, but it does mean that you enhance not only your social capital, but you enhance your ability to make a difference in your community. And so my cousin and I started our own business a few years ago. You've seen us in work, right? We've worked with you, we've partnered. I will say that one of my sacrifices has been stepping away from my business to run for city council. And so where most people are still trying to manage multiple things, I put 100% of myself into this run, 100%. I'm not half-hearted. I'm not foot over here, foot over there. I wanted to prove to my neighbors that not only could they trust me as their current councilwoman or their future councilwoman, but they could trust me as their current neighbor. And so I'm not divided right now. I'm not doing a bunch of work in my business. We will revamp our business plan, and we've identified some needs in our client base, especially with COVID-19. But hey, guess what? If I never walk back in my business, I have the experience to say that I had a lucrative business and that we've been able to help so many small business owners, not only in Baltimore, but across the East Coast. I think when you and I met, I was touring. I was in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Atlanta, and people were calling us in other countries. We had a cruise tour where they wanted us to come to the Bahamas and Bermuda and just talk about entrepreneurship. Just talk about it. Tell us what to do, what to avoid, and how to maneuver through. And so I believe that there are too many people asking to lead who have not first served. And you have to know how to serve before you can lead. You just have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, taking that into consideration, what do you see as the top three issues in District 7? What do you think of those top three? That it, what do you want to do as a candidate for District 7? What do you think are those three issues that you want to come in and say, wow, this is what I think we need to kind of attack or solve?
Yeah. So, we know there's a number of disparities. We know that there's a lot. I mean, it's definitely more than three things that we could
Right,
focus.
absolutely.
But the one that I think has handicapped us the most is poor leadership. And so when I think about what that really means, when you go up and down North Avenue right now, in certain parts, it looks like a third world country. When you look at the fact that we don't have markets, we don't have access to food and fresh food options. But every 4 years, we re-elect someone or elect someone. Every 4 years, we watch people pull each other's hair out and come against their friends and family members and throw their name in the hat when they probably could be more influential somewhere else. We watch all of this stuff happen, and then nothing changes.
Right.
And so I made a comment today on the Larry Young show where I spoke about the promises that happened after Freddie Gray. After Freddie Gray, there was an election year, 2016. The uprising was still very sensitive to many of us, and it still is,
Right.
especially if you knew Freddie or his family. If
Okay.
you're my cousins grew up with them, so it's one of those things that it hit home. We were out in the midst of the chaos. I said on one of the shows a couple of weeks ago, I said, "Did you have your camera out?" Because I didn't have my camera out. And so if you
Okay.
so happen to catch me in the midst of your pictures, great. But that wasn't a time for a photo op. Now, there were some politicians there who had photos, who took photo
Mm.
ops. And because of that, they got elected. But what has changed? What has changed? Have we had a more transparent government? No. Do we have participatory budgeting where the community has a say in where the money goes? No. We're still talking about the Board of Estimates. We're still talking about all of these things. We are still in the very same situation we were in 2015, if not worse. We have new leadership who aren't from here. It's amazing. So the first thing that I think has completely robbed and raped my community is poor leadership. And it has been because people speak about what they're going to do, but they have no proven track record of what they can do. The second thing, of course, we want to talk about crime because it is personal for me. I've lost so many loved ones to gun violence, but crime is a byproduct of a system that is failing. And so in 2018, when my cousin was murdered, I identified a few things. I identified that he had been lead poisoned as a child. I identified that he was scheduled to start working a job that was not going to pay him livable wage. He was murdered on a Friday. He was scheduled to start working that Monday. He left behind small children and a fiance with no life insurance. And so there were some other things that were just as evident as him being murdered. And one of them was literacy and the access to jobs. And so we started We Read, We Lead, which is a not-for-profit initiative that helps bridge the gap in literacy. And so, no, it may not stop a bullet, but for those opportunity crimes, those crimes of opportunity, someone's walking down the street, they break into your car, they steal your package, or they break into your home. We Read, We Lead is a part of the solution to lessen those crimes of opportunities because we give people the platform to not only read, write, but understand financial literacy, to understand health literacy, to be able to then market themselves for the and be prepared for careers, right? So for the career world, we also have partnerships with employment services. And so I've said this several times over for the last year or more, it has been my focus every single month to get people jobs. You can, what they say, check my receipts on that. Tag at least 7 people who will say to you, I was out in the street, I was selling drugs, or I had just returned home from prison and Miss Tori helped me get a job. And so in a position of power doesn't mean that it's about you and your family and your name and lights. It means using that power and using those resources to leverage relationships so that you can benefit your community. And so another thing, so I said poor leadership, crime, which is a byproduct, is a byproduct of all of these other things. And something else I want to talk about today is environment. And so I want to talk about the environment because, again, I think that it's also interrelated. We see that, I think it was one of the senators did a live talk the other day, and everybody talks about the 16-1. 16-1, that's liquor stores to supermarkets. And
oh, wow.
Right? When you start to think about something like food that is mandatory, it's not a question of should I eat or should I not be able to eat. Having access to fresh fruits and vegetables, to clean water, that is your right. And so I'm looking at more and more houses being demolished in our district, more and more abandoned, blighted properties and abandoned, blighted communities. And I'm looking at the homicide rate increase and the use of substance abuse increase. How is it not all tied into poor environment? And so I'm the only candidate that has spoken up against the environmental injustices that are happening in our district. I've been an advocate against the sewage backups and how our city has left many of us having to pay for the cleaning and removal of waste in our basements. I'm currently asking, and I've been doing some work with clean water, asking for a review. The consent decree does not require us to necessarily have the reimbursement program in DPW. And so there's something, the expedited reimbursement program, and that's for people who have been victims of sewage backing up into their basements and homes. To be able to call, 311 and a waiver and be reimbursed.
No lie, I've had, because I manage a couple of I manage a property down on 25th Street, and that has happened in the because they have the landlord, they have a shower in their basement, and there's been a couple of times where the backup has backed up, and I've never been able to figure out why it happened or how it's happened. But that's interesting that you mentioned that. That's crazy. Wow.
Most certainly. And so what happens is you're then being exposed to waste,
exactly,
all kinds of bacteria, all kinds of dangers to yourself and anyone else that comes in contact with that backup. And so there's been $1 million allotted to reimbursements. However, the payout rate is extremely low, and of that million, less than 20,000 has actually been reimbursed to families across our city. And so this is the type of work, and I know that people say, well, how would we know? You would know by following what's happening on social media, by being connected, by coming out, by advocating. We sat for 6 hours in City Hall just testifying about the dangers of this sewer and sewage water. But most people, average people, don't know. They don't know what to do when it happens to them. They don't know that there is something in place for them to be reimbursed. And so when I go back to leadership, being the type of leader that I am, I educate, I inform, I send out information, have a very large social media platform. I'm not afraid to have those conversations with people. And how do you get the resources if you don't have a leader that you can trust to bring back the resources to you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I got kicked out that time.
No worries. I was like, wait, did I pause again?
I know, but that's it. Good. No, go ahead and continue what you were saying about that.
I was just saying about leadership when it comes to leadership. Having the right leaders that to make sure that we get access to the information, because we will never know what's out there for us or how governmental agencies accountable if our leadership is not coming back with the right information.
Absolutely. So, okay, so those are your three that you the three issues. Now,
again, but if you force me to choose three today, you're going for leadership, crime, and environmental issues, because I think, again, all of those are holistically interwoven and they all touch one another.
Absolutely. Now that you've given us the issues, what are some solutions to not just those that you just listed, but any of the issues that we have in District 7?
And so we have, and I say we because I like to give credit to my team. I think too frequently people think that they're the only one and you can do yourself. You cannot. We must have the right people. And so some of my community partners include leadership from Parks and Recs. I have people from housing at the table with me when I'm making these decisions. I have people from the school board, from budgeting, from planning, from just every agency, from waste management. Because again, how do you tell the community what they need without A, listening to them first, and B, the subject matter experts to the table? And so I leverage those relationships a lot. I ask, well, where are we and what has been done? Again, there is no reason to spend taxpayer money starting from scratch each and every time. We need someone like myself who has the ability to come in and say, whoa, this is where the deficit is. Now, this is the solution. And so what I am recommending is restoration for our communities through investment. And so one of the things that I've been focusing on in some of the work we've already started is bringing attention to Mondawmin Mall. So Mondawmin Mall is an epicenter, right? Why are we not using Mondawmin Mall to get jobs for our youth and our young adults. We're always talking about what to do with the squeegee boys, but then again, they're not even invited or welcomed into the mall because we're under this idea that Mondawmin is this very unsafe place. If you start looking at what the numbers say as far as incidents that have happened at Columbia, Towson, and Mondawmin, Mondawmin has far less crime
Wow.
issues than Columbia or Towson.
Wow.
First and foremost, when we're talking about revitalizing a community, we also have to revitalize how we view the community. Mondawmin is worth salvaging. Most people don't even know that Mondawmin, the word itself, is a Native American word. There is so many levels of history that encompass that all in the greater Mondawmin area talking about it. And so while some of my counterparts are talking about, Port Covington and putting money here, money there, why don't we bring back the opportunity to have this epicenter, this commerce center right in District 7? And so it has been extremely challenging for me to feed my neighbors, get food and access and water during this COVID time. Now we've been doing it. We've been creating and working with different community centers and things like that. But how much more effective could we have been if neighbors would have known that they could go to Mondawmin and they could get testing for COVID, they could get resources, they could sign up for unemployment, they could sign up for what they needed. We have a whole mall right here that we can't even access.
Yeah.
And revitalization not only has to do with the blighted properties and the vacant homes, which we spend so much money demolishing them, that if we took a quarter of that money and stabilized the home, made sure that the roof was secure, we would be able to salvage those homes and get those homes back on the market where families who want to purchase or people who are retiring and they say, hey, I want something different. I want to buy back in Baltimore. They could buy back right here in this district. We are at the lowest population that we have had in Baltimore in a very long time. Yeah. People are on a mass exodus because they just don't feel safe. They don't feel included. When it comes to policing and things like that, people are afraid to interact with the police or to speak out about the things that they see in their community. I've already been working with the police department and the community associations so that we can build a bridge and bring stronger sense of collaboration with the community and the police. I also have been talking about and focusing on the cadets program that Baltimore City is offering. And so cadets allows our youth and our young people in 9th and 10th grade to get a taste for what policing is. And so when I was growing up, being a police officer or a firefighter, a teacher, a doctor, these were honorable positions. And you can't pay these children to go into policing, but we can bring back that sense of respect, especially by pipelining from our local high schools right into the police department.
Yeah, and you just brought up something that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, because I was just saying that either yesterday or the day before, no, yesterday, because I was talking with a group of brothers on a Zoom call, and we were talking about how the relationship between law enforcement and black men, and we were talking about growing up, you had the officer friendly that would come to the school.
Oh, certainly. I'm looking
that would talk to the students, and that was one of the ways that you had that relationship. And one of the things that I've said is what we've lost with our law enforcement is you don't see them walking their beats anymore.
Right.
Not actively talking to Miss Jane that lives on the block, who gonna tell you everything about everybody. She know everything about everybody. And I'm not saying I'm just saying there's a Miss Jane. I ain't saying it, but when they walk their beats, they got to be interactive with the community, and that made a difference.
Yeah,
that actually made a difference, and we lost that trust factor in those kind of things and stuff like that. So that's really important. Something I want you to talk about really quickly. You talked about this mass exodus from Baltimore. What do you think are, one or two things that we can do to draw people back to our city? Because I've noticed that too, and you don't hear people talking about that, this mass exodus that we've had.
I think that we have to hold media responsible for the imagery of our city. I've said time that Zone 7, 17, District 7, however you want to look at us, we can be the catalyst for change. And so I was able to have a press conference right at the corner of North and Pennsylvania Avenue. It made CNN coverage and all of these things, but all they highlighted was the negatives. And they have this clip of me, telling the commissioner he needs to be walking in the street like he's homeless. But they took it out of context. And so let me explain to you what that means. That means that what you just said, Miss Jane with no Officer Rose and Officer Rose with no Miss Jane. And so they were a working relationship in that regard. And so media has played such a huge part of how people feel about our city. And so when I see an injustice, I hold media responsible. There was a situation a few months ago where an officer was attacked on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay.
The media called it an attack at Capitol Lounge. It was on the block of Capitol Lounge, but it was not at Capitol Lounge. Capitol Lounge is a Black business in our community. It is in the arts district of Pennsylvania Avenue. And as a leader, I was not going to sit back and ignore that media falsely reported on this. And so I held media accountable. And I had them bring someone back out and interview the owners of Capitol Lounge. Why is it important? Because even though that's not a traditional city hall kind of focus, it is a community focus. And just as much as policing policy and legislative initiatives are important for City Hall, constituent services and making sure that our communities are seen in the appropriate light has to be a focus. It's just as important. And so how do we shift the narrative? We shift the narrative by not being council people who only speak out during times of elections. We shift the narrative by not only being active when we need something from the voters. I look at many of these elections and in these candidates across the board, and I don't know many of them. I've never seen them before. But if you know me, you know that I've always been out in the community. I've always been in the street, and I've never had a problem stepping outside of my district. I jokingly say that people act like it's Walmart. Have you ever been to Walmart and you say, oh, I got 5 minutes. I got to run in. I'm in an emergency situation. And you see the Walmart employee and you're excited. And you say, hey, do you work here? And they're like, yes, how can I help you? And you say, I need a pair of shoes. I ruined my shoe. And I have an important meeting. And they look at you with that face and say, oh, that's not my department. Well, we have to get away from that Walmart mindset. We have to get away from that Walmart thing. That's not my district. That's not my community. And we have to, even though we do the work where we are, we have to be able to look up and look over and operate as one Baltimore. When we start to do that, the synergy, the respect, and the pride of being a Baltimorean will come back to Baltimore, and people will find this an attractive place to live. Also, we need to get away from every time something happens with the squeegee boys, we look at, all of this negative with the squeegee boys and hold these specific employment offices accountable for why there are jobs with no funding, why there are initiatives and nobody working in the office. The mayor has a division of African-American male engagement. I want to see an office of female engagement, an office of senior engagement. Our city council doesn't have a committee for aging adults. Why not? This could be an opportune time for aging adults to move back to the city and to retire here. But we don't do the things that welcome people to our city. And it's, again, because of the recycled pile of tricks. And I say that all the time. You look at some of these races and it's just like they took someone's head and put it on somebody else's body. You get the same recycled ideas and the same recycled pile of tricks. And someone like me who doesn't come from a political family, I don't come from a bunch of money, I don't sit at the political clubs, I'm not seen as the politician's choice. But that's what I think we need to get away from. We need to stop allowing the politicians to tell us who to elect. Who do the people want? Who do the people? That's what we should want.
Absolutely, and you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect to get a different result.
Certainly.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna ask you this: what separates you? And you might have just even talked about it, so you may have to say it. But what separates you from the others who are campaigning to run in District 7 and be that council person for District 7? What makes you different?
So first and foremost, the obvious, I'm a woman. I'm the only woman candidate
Okay.
running 7. And why is that important? It is important because we do not see equity in the representation male to female and female to male in our city council. And so city council is 14 positions, one for each of the districts. The most we have ever had is 4 women, 4 of the 14 positions. And that is right now we're living in history. Right now we have 4 women on the council body. It is
Okay.
important for us to have equitable access and equity when we come to issues that especially deal with the health of women. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about policy initiatives that deal with women's health, children's health, and yet we're not represented in the city council. There's no equity across the board. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we have fair representation at that table, most certainly. And so I'm also experienced and qualified on the federal government level. I'm the only candidate who has worked outside of this local level of government, but who also has worked in the federal government. I have a degree in history and government, political science, but I have a background as well in human capital management, success management, and planning. Those are
Mm-hmm.
are needed in City Hall. Also, the whole first year, I was the only person running against the incumbent for over a year. And so it wasn't about being opportunistic for me. It was about showing our community that someone from the community could run, could have a grassroots campaign of integrity where most of my
Mm-hmm.
donations come from everyday people, not big business, not big developers, not other politicians, but grandmas and grandpas and, you know, working people. And we deserve a voice in City Hall. There's a stigma here. Community people should stay in the community. And too frequently, community people are forgotten. And so I'm a community that makes me very different from the other candidates. Also, I'm the only candidate who has been doing the work here. And so you have some people who may have, you know, done a little food feeding here, a little food feeding there, but you can pull my receipts. I have for years worked to support victims of domestic violence. For years, I've worked to feed and educate children and adults. For years, I've stood against homelessness and being someone who was homeless for 2 years of my life from 16 to 18, I know how sensitive it is and how easy it is to be housing insecure and have food insecurities. And so I am asking the voters to vote for me because I've already been doing the work without a title. I give this analogy all the time about people who wait to be elected or people who wait. If you were in a hospital and you passed out and fell out in the floor, and you found out that there was a doctor in the hallway with you, and that doctor stepped over you because he was 2 weeks away from, you know, being a certified doctor, right? So he had the training. He was, like I said, 2 weeks away, but he stepped over you because he didn't have the title as doctor. Would you respect that doctor? Most of us would say, well, no, not at all. If I fell out in front of anybody, I would want them to help. Where at times we see in these elections people who have the ability to legislate and to push policy, but they hold it until they get elected. I didn't hold it. I've been 100% invested in this process even before I decided to run for city council. And so that means that you can trust that I'm going to work just as hard, if not harder, with the title, with the resources, and at the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now you just told us what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now and this is me. I'm always one to flip to say, what is it that the citizens can do? Now, I'm actually, or it's going to be twofold. What can the citizens do to assist you to achieve, as if you were to get the position, what,
Mm-hmm.
or just in general, because anyone who is going to be in that seat, what do citizens need to do in order to be able to assist the District 7 council person to be able to achieve and make District 7 better?
I've been asking for partnership. Yep,
Okay.
partnership, partnership, partnership. What does that mean? Don't just vote for me. Don't just get me elected, but work alongside with me. Hold me accountable. Let me hold you accountable.
Mhm.
And so, too frequently, our neighbors disengage. They come out, they vote, and then they don't participate in the process. They don't ask the questions. They don't call 311 when they see something. They don't call 911. They don't send the emails to their council person or their councilwoman. They don't communicate. A lot of times people don't see themselves in the political process. And so when you remove yourself from the table, you allow people to make decisions for you that don't adequately represent your needs. And so don't just vote for me, don't just elect me, but work with me. And what that looks like is coming outside, keeping an eye open on what's happening on your block, even if that means putting in a anonymous request for trash cleanup and those types of things. Because without us having documentation of what's happening on your block, sometimes
Mhm.
this is huge. I'm not going to always go up and down every block, but Sheila calls me, Miss Sharon calls me, Miss Karen calls me, whomever, and leaves me a that there's illegal dumping. It helps me be able to be more effective, in my role. And that's even right now. We started a COVID response line. It is
Okay.
77 number. It's a free number. It's 877 700 And what that was my way of standing up in this time of crisis as a leader. I identified that people needed food. I identified that people may have errands that they needed run and prescriptions they needed picked up, but we didn't have a centralized communication tool. And
Mhm.
so we created a virtual command center where anyone can call and they leave a voicemail or they can reach one of our 12 operators and they can ask for the support and help they need. And so this is work that I've already been doing. I want to continue to extend that. I want to show the community associations how to create something like that for themselves because it is not important for me to harbor all the power. It is important for me to empower the community, empower our neighbors so that they can live the quality of life that they want to live. And it's different. At Pennsylvania North Avenue is going to be different than 36 and Falls Road, but everybody deserves to have a better quality of life, period.
Period. Now, that's the citizens. What can business owners and entrepreneurs do that are in District Seven? What can they do to assist their council person to be able to um, make District Seven better?
I think it's the same thing. But I would say that what I am working towards is getting a system where business owners can participate in the political process and
Okay.
again, not retaliated against. I've had business owners call me and say, these people came and knocked on my door and threatened me, or
Mm.
these people, told me because I was supporting you, I also had to support them. That's not that's not cool. That's not fair. That's not right. That's not good. That's not permissible. And I'm blowing the whistle on it. I want business owners to know that we respect them, we love them, and we understand that small businesses, especially, again, are the fiber of our economy. And so you should be able to participate in the political process and not be bullied. We have people who are bullying business owners, people who are threatening their licenses, people who are threatening to close down their businesses for their own political gain. And that must stop. That must stop. And so right now, I don't feel that our city respects our business owners the way that they should.
Mm.
Many of business owners who have come to me who have said they haven't been able to get economic relief during this time of COVID. It's despicable. And so when we talk about legislation, we need to pass legislation that ensures the protection of our small business owners, especially those people who may have 10 employees or less. I don't see enough advocacy for those individuals. Also, I'm telling the small business owners to leverage what they have to get into business communications with one another and barter your resources. And so create your own environment where you can thrive regardless of what's happening in the economic system around you.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and see because it's important to me that people understand that you it's like you said, it's not only that the council, whoever the person is that's going to be in office, that they be held accountable, that
Mhm.
they be held accountable, but how important it is for the citizens and businesses, and even, and I'm going to add it like this, I put it like this, I put it in this row, that the families, that the educational system in these districts, the government, which would be the city council person, and the businesses and the church, because they must all work collectively.
Most certain.
It's because that's what the community is comprised of.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what the community, and when they work together, it makes, I can't think of any community that works together cohesively when you take all of those components and they work together, and that community is not thriving.
That's right. That's right.
I dare folks to find one that doesn't, where you have those elements that are working together, and they're thrive and they're not thriving. I
And
promise you.
I have this of some amazing pastors, you know, and we've been on shows with some amazing pastors. Um, I am a disciple of Christ. I tell people all the time that God Himself called me for this run. You know, this was not a checklist for me. It was not about getting access to a new job,
Mhm.
very lucrative six-figure position in the federal government. This is not about money. I walked away from all of that so that our children could have hope again, so
Wow.
that feel supported, so that our policies made sense. You know, I hear people talking about data and the need for data. Well, my family has been affected by the data because each year 300 plus people are murdered, and each year we've had someone in those numbers. That's some data. And
Yeah.
so when we start to look at what the pastors and the churches need, they definitely don't need to be separated from, I'm sorry. There's this very annoying thing that's happening outside. 1 second. You know, it's funny because it is campaign season, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like loudspeaker type of things. I've heard such feedback from our community that is very disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
People are dying. People are quarantined with
Right.
COVID,
Right.
and if I'm on my sick bed and I got to hear this noise outside, it's not very pleasant for people, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that we have to also get away from, again, the politics and reach people where they are,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So anyway, I apologize. Kind of like
Mm-mm. No, absolutely not.
so, but the pastor piece, the church is not a GoFundMe. Church is not a bank for you. Uh, but church is definitely a communal place where we should be able to get resources. I've
Mm-hmm.
spoken to a number of my pastor supporters about emergency preparedness and
Mm-hmm.
how we train their leadership teams so that in times of crisis they know what to do. For
Mm-hmm.
I was a part of the EEO and OEO for the federal government, and so I've been trained as a first responder, a civilian
Okay.
first responder. So what happens if there's a fight? What happens if there's an active shooter? What happens if we're in a situation of a natural disaster? And so some of the videos I've done regarding water consumption during this time, and how long does the COVID disease and virus last on surfaces and things like that, is not coming from me just wanting to make a video. It's coming from me having over 7 years of training. And so they trained us, the same people who trained the FBI trained us.
Mm-hmm.
Fire training, how to get children out of burning buildings. I've had all of those trainings. And so giving that education to our churches, emergency preparedness, financial management. Do you pay your tithes? That ain't my business. Let me teach you how to have life insurance and how to build your wealth so you can pay your tithes. I don't care to pay your
Hello.
tithes. I'm not a pastor. It's not my church. I care being able to feed your family of your other responsibilities. And so teaching the church how to be fiscally responsible and how to their membership about financial education, financial management, financial literacy, we'll start to see the church be a much more valued part of community.
Yeah. Yeah. And before just real quick before I go to the last question,
Mm-hmm.
because I know you got to go. But I said that yesterday, or I did a video talking about all the stuff that's going on, and sacrificing, but understanding it's not only about um, like I said, the family, but parents being involved in their kids' education,
Most
the
certainly.
family being involved in asking businesses, asking the church, what can
Yeah.
we do with you, because if you're assisting the church to do what it's supposed to do, then it can then work together to assist the community and what it's supposed to do. And then you have that, like we just talked about, that collective thing going on where everybody, the whole cycle of the community is working together to make it thrive and make it better. So to that end, I want to ask you this, and we talked a little bit about it from the beginning. How important is it for people to get out and vote? Now, I know this is a presidential election year, so you're going to get more people out than usual, because you got the presidential candidates that are going to be on the ticket. But just how important is it locally for people to be involved in voting, and not just during this presidential season that we're going to have this time?
Most certainly. And so I have family members that live in other countries who don't have the right to vote. I have family who are married to people who are not natural born citizens, who are here, who would love to vote, who don't have the right to vote. And I don't think most people think about the sacrifices that were made so we can vote. And so the other day when I casted my ballot, I mentioned the women's suffrage movement. So women have had the right to vote for over 100 years, however, or about 100 years. However, Black and brown people, we've only had the right to vote since the 60s. And so to think about it in a historical context, like I said, I'm a history lover. I actually am a teacher now. I'm in the education system. And some of the things I hear our youth and our young adults say, oh, that's not for me. That's not for me. Well, think about it this way. Say that you decide you're not going to vote. Let's put it in context that people can understand. You go to work, they have an election, you don't participate. You come to work the next day and you find out every single day that you come to work, you have to wear a whole banana suit. Most people outraged. Wait, I don't want to wear a banana suit. That's not for me. But you didn't exercise your right to have an opinion in what we do. And I know it sounds very trivial, but it is exactly that simple. So not removing yourself from the table, removing yourself from the conversation means that when money is taken from our school system and put into police overtime, or when our children are not being funded, but there's new roads and new casinos and all of these different things, or when you call 396 whatever and you're reaching out to your Congress person and your council person and they don't know you and there's no resources for your community, or like one of the young ladies in the Hanlon community she and her boyfriend were carjacked at gunpoint, and the mother told me about it because I'm accessible. When those things, you don't have those accesses, you don't have a right to complain. You took yourself from the table, you took yourself from the conversation. And people say, well, I'm a taxpayer. Why would you pay taxes in a system that you don't even use your voice? Use your voice. Pay your taxes and use your voice. Those are perks. Those come all together. And so what I want people to do, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I had a conversation with a Republican earlier. I said, I don't want you to be a Republican, but I'm just grateful that you're connected to the system, that you stand for something.
Right.
We have to stand for something. My 11-year-old son, when he was 9 years old, my cousin was murdered. He said, Mommy, I don't want to be extinct. I don't want to be killed in the street. I don't want to be extinct. To understand that our children are under such levels of trauma, that our children think that there's this to see drugs and to see vacant properties and all of these things is normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. My son is in Baltimore City public schools. My son gets sick every year because his classrooms are either too hot or too cold. Some of the guys that are running against me, their children are not in school. They're not. Their children are young. They haven't entered the school system. I was a PTA vice president. I know exactly what it is to be on this board and fight and advocate for money to come into our school system. I know how simple it is to get air conditioners in buildings, but because of political bureaucracy, they want a power struggle over air, heat, and water. Enough is enough. And I want them angry. I want them to be so angry that they fill in the bubble next to Tori Rose. You know what? We've tried it all before. I heard what he had to say and he had to say, but I like what she's saying and I'm going to give it one more try. Because if not, you don't have the right to complain. You don't have the right to argue about what's happening. If you remove yourself from the table and you say, oh, that politics stuff is not for me, you don't have the right to complain. And I'm going to, my cousin's baby, she'll be 2 in October. And I shared that her mother was 7 weeks pregnant with her when her father was murdered. And I look at this little girl who will never get to know her father. And I understand that even though they have a strong mother, my cousin's fiance, she does amazing by her children. Those children have now become the responsibility of all of us. We have to stop looking and saying that's a their issue or them issue. It's a us issue. And one murdered in the city is an us issue. One house demolished on a block is a us issue. One community falling apart is an us issue. We have to get away from turning our backs and we have to understand it affects all of us.
Absolutely. Now, how can people find before they go to the election, find out more if they want to about you? Where can they go to?
So I saw one of my team members. Thank you, Crystal, for dropping the information in the comments. You can check the
Mm-hmm.
comments for correct spelling. My email address is rosecorbmore@gmail.com. You can send me a email if there's something going on you want me to investigate, look into it, and help and support you. You can find me at www.votetoryrose.com. If you have your ballot in front of you and you live in 21217, 1615, or 11, if you look under the city council president, under the comptroller, you'll see city council, District 7, choose one. You're going to vote for Tori Rose. I'm the second bubble under that box. I'm the only female on the ballot, community leader, mom, advocate, educator, and woman who is ready to make a change and work for you. So please, please, please entrust me with your vote. But most of all, elect me and work with me because it takes all of us, all of our voices together to make a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, I got this, and I was told to ask this question to you.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so, so and I think you'll probably, as soon as I say the person's name, you'll know who I'm talking about. And I'll give his person. His name is Hassan, and he said you got to ask her this question. He
Oh, wow.
said ask her about the development of a Black professional women's organization,
Thanks,
and what's up with the follow up with that?
so, yes, he identified that Black Professional Men is an organization that does amazing for Black men, brown men, men in general. And so, about a year ago, it was presented to me, it fell in my spirit to create the Black Professional Women's platform. And so, we have been working behind the scenes to create this platform that not only brings the sisterhood that's necessary and needed in the professional environment for business women, entrepreneurs, and the like, but also to give women an opportunity to leverage their skill sets, to train, to connect with other entrepreneurs and business women. And it's not just for people who have businesses, but if you work in a traditional 9 to 5 and you understand you have a skill set that either you want to share or that needs to be developed, this is a safe space for you. And so by August of this year, Black Professional Women will be a lot more visible. I didn't think it was fair to take from the inception of the organization because of the campaign. I also to think that it was a campaign maneuver or strategy. And so this is something we've been working on for over a year. We did meet with Hassan because we are extending our sisterhood to Black professional men. We will be two separate organizations, but there's an opportunity for us to build a bridge and really network for Black professionals, regardless of male, female, and everything in between. And so I look forward to the opportunity to continue this conversation, forward to us working all together. And I most certainly look forward to this platform that is going to be very good for Black women throughout the DMV.
Yeah, and that's important. That, like you said, for men and women to be able to have that access, and that's just something that's needed in the community. Period.
Most certainly.
So that they have access to it, and those are things that when you have access to those resources, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, the community can actually flourish and be better and do better and everything like that. So you know.
That was so funny. That wasn't a bad question. Some of the questions you asked are like,
Oh
woo.
no. So I'm gonna let you end it, and I'm gonna let you end it like this by just leaving the watchers, listeners, with your message and why they should come out, or actually even before Tuesday, because we're not standing in line to vote this year, but why they should vote, period. this year, and your message to them.
And so it's a simple message. Our sons, our daughters, and our grandchildren depend on us to make the decisions that will help them have a better tomorrow. And I know 100% of me knows that I am the right choice to lead this district because it's not about me. It's not about my ego, and it's not about a title. It's about reestablishing a community, a environment that our children's children can benefit from. I am working currently to get fresh fruits and vegetables, food markets, access to health resources. We've been working with the Department of Health to bring mental health support, substance abuse, and everything that would enrich and enhance the lives in our community. And so, for anyone who's listening who normally doesn't trust politicians, I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant who is seeking a political office. And yes, there is a difference. So please vote Tori Rose, come out, fill in your ballot, use your black ink. We together can do all things. And so that's all I have to say. We can get it done. Together we are stronger. And I'm asking you guys to rise with Rose.
Absolutely, and we are as a whole should want to make Baltimore better,
Most
and because we are here, and it's important for us. And I always say this, that it's our every generation's responsibility to make it better for the next generation.
most certainly.
And
Oh,
when we're voting, you have to ask yourself that question: is who makes it better? Who is going to make it better for the
yep.
next generation? So
Most
so, Miss Rose, I thank you. I
thank,
thank you. I thank
thank
you for coming on and taking the time out, because I know, like I said, you have a busy schedule, taking time out to come and talk with us, talk with me, and to be able to share with people your message and the things that will make our city better in doing that. And I say this, and I usually end everything when I say this. I say, chase the impact, because when you chase the impact, you change the world.
Mhm.
And everyone who has been an impact chaser has been somebody that's changed the world. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm about. I'm about changing the world. I'm about having an impact on our city,
Mhm.
first of all, because like I said, I'll keep saying it. I love our city. I think our city is the greatest city in this country,
Mhm.
and we have so much richness that is here,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's more than what people, the media image that gets put out there about our city. We're so much more, and I know that we can do more, be more. So I thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for coming in. I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. Those that will watch, will listen to all of this. It's your boy. This is 2020, y'all, and it's about purpose and passion. It's about fast and furious, move with purpose, move with passion, chasing that impact. Because when you chase the impact, you change the world. So we'll talk to y'all next time.
Thank you. Have a good one.